Please the court. Opposing counsel. Because this is a difficult case to argue. I don't disagree with Ms. Suarez about 6 people, but we'll talk about perceptions. And the only analogy I can use is something that happened to me 2 weeks ago. I just finished a homicide trial. I'm sitting at my desk doing some Zoom demos. Marine cameras are going off like crazy. And I see 2 men at my front door. The newspapers, we're old-fashioned, we get newspapers delivered. One's in a red sleeve, and the other one's the Palm Beach Post in a clear sleeve. And they don't bring it to my door, they throw them in the driveway, and I see these 2 guys throwing my newspapers against the door, and they're pushing each other and screaming at each other, and I could not make out what they're saying. I live in a gated community, and I'm like, what's going on here? I'm trying to pay attention to my deposition, I'm trying to watch this, and it looks like they're possibly breaking into the house, but they didn't grab the doorknobs, and then I'm watching my cars in the driveway. I could not figure this out. To me, these 2 grown men looked like they were doing some shenanigans at my home. And then I see them in the driveway pushing each other and fighting and possibly joking around. This is in broad daylight. I live at the very end of a community. The last house, there's really no houses I can see anything. My camera show it. I'm about to call the police, and I said, I see these guys going to the street, come back to my door, go to the street, look in my car. For the life of me, I thought these guys were about to break in. I see a golf cart in front of one of my driveways, and I'm like, guys don't break into homes with golf carts usually. It's unusual. So I called my neighbor. I wasn't worried about him. I said, can you just look outside and tell me what's going on? I know he's retired. So I see him on the camera, so he goes up to the guys, and I don't know what they're saying. I can't hear, but basically he tells me it's a father and son. The son's a grown man, and he's severely autistic. And the father's shoulder just got pulled out, and he can't control this young man. And he was fixated with my newspapers, and he couldn't stop him. And I told him it's right. I could have easily called the police and said these guys are trespassing, potential burglars. And I think it's akin to what happened here. In this case, we have 6 people. We know alcohol is definitely a factor with everybody. Everyone's having a good time. They're all drinking. And they believe, and they're so invested because they spent 4 years in this, they don't want to be wrong. People don't want to be wrong. And the long cases go on, they want to be right. Now, I'm not saying they made this story up. It did happen. Cole Goldberg told you it happened. Their perception is it looked like he was trying to drown her. They didn't know these people or what happened. They didn't have the benefit of sitting for a trial. That's why we have trials. That's why we explore everything in front of a judge or a jury in this country, so you can hear everything available. So the real question comes down to, not did it happen, it's like, what was his intent? And I'm not going to sit here and go through all the testimony. I know the court is an experienced jurist, experienced trial lawyer. You heard it all. You listened to everything. You know that people were generally saying the same thing. There were some inconsistencies. There was 1 second maybe under pushing by the head. Other person said 30 seconds or 10 seconds. Another person said 4 Mississippi. Everyone's all over the place, but they're all agreeing it happened. My client told you it happened. You got to meet him. He starts personality. This is a docile young man. You can see the way he testifies. That's just who he is. He's just a young man getting his life together. And I'm not going to judge him for who he picked, and that was his decision. I'm sure his family wasn't happy about his relationship. That was his choice. He loved this lady. And love is blind. Lust and love is doubly blind. I'm sure that's what was going on in this young man's life. So much so, he forgot his career. He's now watching kids. It's not what he bargained for, but it's what he chose. He agreed to pay for money, for a car, for rent was the testimony. He didn't care. That's just who he is. Didn't bother even today. It doesn't bother him. You can tell when he testified. No, that was my choice. That was just who Cole Goldberg is. You heard he was peaceful among his friends in the community. But you can look back and it's easy for me to say, you're stupid or an idiot for doing this. Look at the trouble you got yourself into. That's not really the truth. That's not what happened. It was his choice. It was both their choices. She's telling you he lied about his age. She still stayed with him for 6 more months. What's that have to do with anything? Whether he did or didn't. They both agreed to stay with each other. This lady's an opportunist. She's a reality TV star. She's on all kind of shows. The evidence came out and articles trying to profit from this. She's an opportunist. That's what she is. So she's trying to fit the narrative to make it look like I was really a victim. Not only was I a victim, he stuck his nails. He said in her vagina, in deposition was the testimony, under oath, she said that. And in her other statement for her restraining order, she said in my groin area. Either way, that never came out anywhere. The court didn't see any photos or physical injuries on this lady. The officer with the big hat, I forgot his name. Thank you, Hudson. Very inexperienced guy. He did the best he could. It's not easy probably to conduct an investigation out in the water. But he's out there telling the guys in the other boat, this is attempted murder. This is, what if this was your daughter? And just everyone's now reinforcing this guy tried to kill or drown this lady. They didn't realize what was happening. Because one of the guys in the other boat with the 6 men thought you got to be flapping around and splashing. Frankly, I thought that too. And that's why we called an expert to tell you this court, it can happen in silence. It can happen very quick. The 2 FWC officers both testified based on their training. Drowning can happen very quick and very silently. It's not like Hollywood, where we can imagine, because most of us, I've never seen anyone drown, thank God. But also the testimony is some parents see their kids possibly drowning. They don't even realize their kids are drowning because there's no signs. It just happens. There's signs to the person drowning. And Dr. Ledman explained what happens to people when they have that feeling. Cole Goldberg told you his experience. First time in his life. He was seeing dark. He was in a room. Is that hard to believe? So in this case, I submit to you, yeah, you can believe all 6 of these people. I'm not telling you not to believe them. They believe what they saw. But how do you determine beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Goldberg's intent was to kill the lady he loved, that he wanted to be with, that he sacrificed his dating life, whatever. He chose her, he chose her kids, he chose to pay her money. Even when her car got damaged, he didn't care. This is who he chose. She wants you to believe they broke up in the morning, or that was the intonation, or what she tried to get the court to believe. That we broke up. I would tell them in the morning we had problems. The only one that ever had problems was her. You heard her. I demand respect. So when he gets a phone call from a girl about a boat, all of a sudden he's cheating on her. Ex-girlfriend, friends, he's fighting with her at an Italian at a restaurant, at Rocco's Tacos. Not Italian, but I guess Mexican. Fighting with her for what? It's all nonsense. It really has nothing to do with the case other than to show Your Honor that this guy's not jealous of her. He doesn't care she's wearing a spring bikini and guys are looking at her. He doesn't even do anything. Mr. Nemo told Mimo, not Nemo, but Mimo, from New Jersey with a heavy accent, will heavy your mind, basically said, I would have beat that guy up. I don't know how he just stood there and did nothing. That's who he is. That's his personality. He may not be like me, or you, or Mr. Mimo, or somebody else. That's his personality. He didn't do anything. So the only arguments they had, he said, we don't have arguments. She's always arguing with him. She's jealous of him. She's worried because he's a younger guy with a future career. She latched on to him. What her motives are, you know now, her motives are money. She sued him. She's trying to get money. She's trying to get fame on this. He didn't give one interview, he said. Nothing. She gave plenty. She's piggybacking on a tragedy to make money. It is what it is. That's who she is. She latched on to this young man. And he loved her. At least he thought he did. I'm sure he's looking back now saying, how stupid was I? But it happened. Because it's so hard to believe. He admitted he was drinking all day long. That's what people do at Boca Bash. He's allowed to drink. He's of age. He was drinking. 5 drinks, 3 more drinks, another 3. He didn't count them. No one counts drinks when you're out there all day. If you have one to remember. But he was honest. The only one who told you he had probably 11 drinks that day or more. So he was drinking all day long. Everyone else was like, oh, we weren't drinking. I don't drink, but then you heard some evidence that they were drinking. There's alcohol in their boats. Oh, I only had 4 beers. What's the difference? Everyone's out there drinking. That affects people's perception. More importantly, it affected his ability to swim. That's common sense. The court doesn't need an expert for that. We know if you're out there in the hot sun, you're not properly hydrating, you're not eating properly. I don't care what shape you're in. If you're doing that and you're drinking all day long, it's not a smart idea to get in the water. But he did. These are the facts. This lady comes in here and Ms. Schwitzsky tells you He throws the guy into the propeller. Why should I believe that when there's zero evidence of that? What's her motive for getting this court to believe he's violent and dangerous? She's trying to fit the narrative to show that he really strangled her like a rag doll, back and forth. Just a minute if she did that, there'd be some injuries on her. Not the two little dots, the guy with the hat said. 2 little dots. Hudson, thank you. There's no 2 little dots. Look at those pictures. There's nothing on her. Suarez said at one point, when we were getting into the injuries and the bruises, that's nothing to do with this case. I agree. Bruises on the arm and leg have zero to do with this case. There's no injuries from this case whatsoever. And if you grab somebody like her, choke their neck, he's a strong guy, it works out. She has some injuries, some marks. Why is the paramedics not called? Why are 6 reasonable people, if they really thought he was trying to hurt her, why would they call 911? I almost called 911 because guys were playing by my door and screaming at each other. I didn't even know who they were. I had my neighbor investigate it, and then he told me, poor guy has a severely autistic son, he has to go to the hospital, his shoulder's pulled out. I shut my camera off, I wasn't worried. It was over. Thank God I had my neighbor to do that. I would call the police, and hopefully nothing bad would happen, but why did these guys call? Who wouldn't call the police if you really see something? Or you believe somebody's trying to kill somebody, and you're a normal person, dial 911, let them figure it out. Doesn't matter if it's on the water, it doesn't matter if it's in your home, or you're just visiting another state, call the police. If you really believe, testimony was they weren't even going to call the police until he came back. That's the emergency? You really think someone had the intent? That's nonsense. If you thought someone had the intent to commit a crime, you can break into a car. If you see someone breaking into somebody's car, the average person will call the police. Never mind trying to strangle someone, duck them under the water intentionally. This goes through they're wrong. They're just not believable that the evidence is not beyond all reasonable doubt that my client intentionally strangled this woman. Contrary to that, no physical evidence whatsoever. Testimonies all over the place in that. Tried to murder her, attempted second degree, ill will, hatred, spite, evil intent. Opposite of that. This guy was madly, at least he thought he was madly in love. This is my girlfriend. He's proud of her. Won't even fight another man who slapped her in the butt. That's who he is. Doesn't matter, maybe right, maybe wrong, who cares? That's just his personality. You saw him on the witness stand. He's calm. When Miss Suarez was going after him, yes ma'am, no ma'am, straightforward. He judges credibility. You see witnesses every day for years. You saw her personality. Miss Schwitzsky. Like I said, she's an opportunist that's trying to fit the narrative. She tells the police nothing happened. She wants you to believe, well, I'm an abused woman. I was loving him. He's a nice, sweet boy. So I didn't want to say anything. She's on probation. She's not allowed to leave the county. She comes with a lot of baggage. It's not my client versus Ms. Schwitzsky, but she's an important witness. And my position is she has very little, if no, credibility whatsoever in this trial. So then it comes down to the 6 people that testified, and Mr. Goldberg, and his friends. Mr. Limo from New Jersey, who runs a contracting business for his family. He's agreed upon he can testify. So the state now saying, well, why are you not here? What relevance does that have? The court heard him. You got to see him. He told you what happened. He told you there was no problem all day long. The guy whose boat it was told Sebastian, said no problem, everything was fine. From the moment they got up into his home, it didn't look like they were not a couple anymore, they were breaking up. That's a fallacy. He just wants the court to believe that, to show that he's a bad guy. We were having problems all day long. And Ms. Pawlik gets up here, she says, no, I agree, I wanted to stay. Cole did too, but it was me, I wanted to stay. Who would want to stay if you're having problems all day long? It makes no sense. Zero sense. It's not realistic. Not at all. It's not even realistic. She had her phone in her hand. Never mind. She's saying she's being strangled and she drops her phone. Phones sink. In the salt, the regular water, phones are going straight down. How did she magically have her phone on the boat? Where that picture was taken. You saw that picture, Judge. She had her phone. Did she really drop her phone? It magically appeared on the boat again? Couldn't find that phone. very easily. If it dropped to the floor, it never happened. She didn't drop the phone. She had it in her hand the whole time. That was the issue with the phone. That's why the phone is somewhat important. She's talking about her bag and the phone being thrown through. That's nonsense. It never happened. She had her phone, is the bottom line. She says she dropped it. There's no way she dropped it. This is an unfortunate event. People saw what happened. They jumped to conclusions. And you can tell by them not calling 911. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that's what most people would do. Not one of the 6 people called for paramedics, called 911. She had no injuries. She had 0 marks on her body. She wasn't coughing up water, was a testimony. And this guy doesn't even know what's going on. Who would try to kill somebody and then go back to the boat? One of the guys on the 2, I think it was riding a board, said he was hanging on the back of the boat. And that's when the boat hook came. It's not just him saying it like Ms. Suarez wants you to believe. He was hanging back in the boat. And I think Ms. Schwitzsky said the same thing the very first time. And then Mr. Bowman and Mr. Tarachek lost his temper very quick and jumped to conclusions for whatever reason. He's threatening with a gaff. He can't figure it out. What normal person who's sober, even if you're not sober, if you really try to kill somebody or injure someone intentionally, then leaves would come back for their girlfriend that you just tried to murder, that broke up with you for throwing a can at her head when there's nothing on her head or face. That's nonsense too. That never happened. She's a jealous woman. She's afraid she's going to lose her meal ticket. The guy with the future, his parents, the family comes from a long line of lawyers was a testimony. This is her meal ticket. This is her future. So reality stuff makes nothing. That's why she's out there doing stuff right now, trying to promote it to make more money. But this is the guy who's going to go to law school. He's going to be famous. He's going to be a big lawyer. He's going to live in a country club like his parents. We stay in his guest house. Now it's over. It's over. So she's trying to capitalize on it again because that's who she is. She's an opportunist, a person who tries to seek opportunities any way she can. So how do you determine? It's hard when you get 6 people from the community who doesn't know anyone, like Ms. Suarez said. Easy. You put it all together. No police calls, nothing. If he didn't come back, you never would have heard of Cole Goldberg's name. If he didn't come back to the boat the second time, no one would have heard of him. They weren't calling the police. It was not a big deal. It turned into a big deal because now you get group mentality and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh yeah, this is what happened. And you get an inexperienced officer who's pushing them, write these statements. Oh yeah, we're going to go to court in this. Make sure you come to court. Make believe this is your own daughter. This is an attempted murder. That's it. So I understand why we have to air this case out. I'm not saying it's a nonsense case because it's not. It's real. It really did happen. But really, the moment of truth, when this lady goes under the waters, it's so hard to believe this man who was intoxicated, like the police said, wasn't falling down drunk, not highly intoxicated, according to the guy of Hudson, not highly, but it was intoxicated. He doesn't deny it. Of course he was intoxicated. It's a fact. That's what happened. He had trouble swimming. We brought you the expert to tell you that there are different stages when you get into the distress part. That's exactly what he was in, distress. He may not even went in first. He was close to it. Who knows? But do you believe that he maliciously tried to drown Caroline Schwitzsky intentionally? If you do, then he's guilty. There's nothing I can say. And if you have a reasonable doubt, then he's not guilty. We submit, Ms. Perlette and I, based on all this evidence, that he's not guilty at all. Any of these charges. There was no intent. There was no maliciousness at all. He made a mistake. He made a lot of mistakes in his life already at a young age. And it almost cost him his own life, actually, by drowning. He could have easily been a drowning victim and died silently, like Dr. Leatherman says happens all the time. And alcohol is the major contributor, he said. No drowning deaths, it's the #1 contributor. He almost was a statistic. So he's lucky he's here and not somewhere else facing your honor by citing this case, because he could have easily been a stat. So that's the story. That's what happened, Your Honor. I think these people misperceived. Their perceptions are off. They didn't want to be wrong. And beyond a reasonable doubt, we don't think Your Honor can say that he's guilty. So we're asking you to find him not guilty of all the charges. Thank you very much, Your Honor. And I'm sorry we used the postage, Judge. Those are for a jury trial, so no way I would not do that to Your Honor.
It's okay.
Thank you.